In today's video, I'm going to be building an awesome gaming PC based around AMD's RX 9070 XT. Widely regarded as one of the best graphics cards for 1440p and 4K gaming of this GPU generation, this is a card that's packed with power. And I'm going to be showing you guys the kind of parts I'd pair it up with, the performance on offer, and of course, how to assemble a system just like this. Let's do this. The Corsair Frame 4000D is here and better than ever. With a spacious and fully modular design, you can configure this case to meet your build's exact needs. Improved airflow at the front and on the side helps to keep temperatures down, while Corsair's new InfiniRail mounting system allows you to adjust fan rails for added versatility and a cleaner aesthetic. What's more, it's compatible with reverse connector motherboards, 360mm all-in-one radiators, and comes with an integrated GPU anti-sag arm. Learn more and check it out at the first links in the description below. I'm going to kick things off by talking through the CPU and GPU combo, and of course address the elephant in the room, GPU pricing and availability. The launch of the RTX 50 series and RX 9000 series has been a bit of a shit show, or for want of more acceptable language, a bit of a mess. Nvidia's problem has been hugely inflated prices at retail and cards that have received generally a pretty underwhelming reception. AMD have done better with their 9070 XT in particular being received very well, but pricing is still all over the shop. The 9070 XT at MSRP starts at $599 US. Now, for a bit more money, you can get a slightly upgraded cooler, like this ASUS TUF Gaming design, and AMD have got no founders or reference design per se, meaning that their MSRP is actually, arguably in the long run, harder than Nvidia's to reach. With that being said, this still comes in for $150 less than its closest Nvidia counterpart, the RTX 5070 Ti, and does so with better performance overall. Now, if you want multi-frame gen and ray tracing and AI upscaling, Nvidia is still better. But AMD aren't just like the cheap, crappy budget option anymore. Far from it. In our gaming benchmarks, the 9070 XT smashes it. In Hogwarts Legacy, pulling in over 90 frames per second at 4K high, beating out the 5070 Ti. In Alan Wake 2 at 4K high, hitting the all-important 60 FPS mark, again beating out the 5070 Ti, this time by over 9 frames per second. While Marvel's Rivals also sees some great performance, with just shy of 90 FPS on average at that top 4K resolution. I'll of course be running through the exact performance of this graphics card with the CPU I've chosen for today's build a little later, but these numbers give you an indicative idea of what AMD have achieved here. Now on the CPU front, I've also gone AMD, and not because, you know, it's nice to have AMD CPU and AMD GPU, but because this is the best mid-range gaming CPU right now. Full stop. This is the AMD Ryzen 5 9600X, and it builds on all the things that were good about the 7600X for the same price. Great. Primarily going to see big improvements to power consumption. Boring, yes, we know, no one's really bothered about that. But single thread performance is better too, and you are going to see a frame rate uplift on this CPU versus going for a last gen Ryzen 7000 option. RAM and SSD are really easy to talk about. RAM is super simple and very difficult to get wrong. 32GB, check. Two 16GB DIMMs for dual channel performance, check, and we want a speed of over 6,000 megahertz. 6,000 is fine, but something with 6400 is a little better, and you want to make sure that CAS latency is below 36. The closer to 30, the better your RAM performance is going to be, providing the perfect balance of speed, latency, and capacity of modules. As far as the SSD goes, I've gone for this, the Corsair MP600 GS. Now this is sort of a, I wouldn't say entry-level Gen 4 drive, but it's a bit of a simple, get the job done kind of option. Now you're still going to get on this 2TB model 4,800 megabytes per second, so that's 4.8 gigabytes a second of read and up to 4.5 gigabytes of write, and for the price this is a really, really good option. Talking of some price competitive parts, I've actually got a few bits over from Endorfy, not sponsored, but they look quite cool. This is the rainbow powered, whatever that means, Navis F360 ARGB. Presumably the rainbow powered means it's just got pretty lights, which we like. This is a 360mm all-in-one. It's on the more basic and simple side. You might be thinking, James, why do we need a 360mm AIO for a Ryzen 5 CPU? Now, in truth, we don't. The reason I've done it is because it's going to give us some extra fans, it's going to lower CPU temperatures, it's going to make the build look a bit better, and for the extra 40 or 50 US dollars that it's going to cost you versus a decent air cooler, I personally think it's worth the extra cash. I mean, heck, I've seen people pay more than 40 or 50 dollars for a couple of extra fans, and you get a radiator, a pump, and some nice cooling as well. As far as motherboard goes, I'm tying in with a little bit of an ASUS theme. I thought it would be good to match the TUF card up with a similar motherboard. This is the TUF Gaming B850 plus Wi-Fi. B850 is of course AMD's B650 chipset replacement, if you will. Don't worry too much about the lack of the E lettering. Previously we had B650, B650E. That doesn't mean what it used to on these new boards, meaning a design like this is going to be fine. You still get full PCI Gen 5 support from the NVMe drive and support for all the Ryzen CPUs, everything from a 7500F on the low end right through to a 9950X3D on the very top end if you've got more money than sense. In terms of ASUS, there's one more ASUS component, and this actually wasn't on purpose, but it's also TUF Gaming. So we've got a theme going today. This is the 750 watt gold, and it's a 750 watt 80 plus gold certified power supply. It's fully modular, got nice cables, it's quiet, it's quite small. That's it. I shouldn't become a power supply salesperson, should I? But it just gets the job done at a price that I like, and that makes me happy. Now, as far as the case goes, the final thing to talk about, this is the Endorfy Arx 700 ARGB. And I have to say, first impressions are pretty good. Now here in the UK, I think it retails for about £80. US is probably going to be similar, but obviously tariffs and all that. I've made a video about that separately. Watch that. We are not getting into that today. We're not doing politics on GeekaWhat. Absolutely not. But this is kind of nice. It's got a really low resistance mesh front panel with three 140mm ARGB fans that are pre-plumbed and wired at the front. And as you can see, this is magnetic. So it just magnets back on. Lovely tempered glass side panel with a fairly minor tint. I like that. I don't like cases that are too tinted. Plenty of room on the internals, and that's good because the graphics card I've picked is fairly large. We get a further 140mm ARGB fan at the rear, plenty of rubber grommets, a nice power supply shield, and I like, especially they've done this, they've cut the power supply shield off, so if you want to fit presumably a 420mm radiator, or at least a 360mm full height, you could indeed do so. Cable management on the rear has been started. I think probably slightly more of an effort could be made to tidy it up a little bit more. I will do that later on, but Endorfy, if you are watching this, you want some feedback, this probably could be a little bit neater. Your front panels on the top, nice rubber grommets on the top and down the side of the case, and generally all looks pretty good. So with that, I think it's about time I go ahead and build a gaming PC inside of this case and start off, of course, with the CPU, motherboard, RAM, an SSD. For me, the first step's always the processor. Nice to get this out the way nice and early. And as you can see, our Ryzen chip is going to sit in there without too many problems. This isn't a full how to build a PC tutorial. I've got a really detailed one on the channel, so check that out in the cards section if you want to give it a watch. RAM is going to be next. Now, for this build today, I'm going to be using the second and fourth slots on the motherboard. These are actually color-coded in grey, which makes your life a bit easier. And as you can see, very simple case. We're sliding the RAM DIMMs into place. Just a little something like so. And with that, the memory is in. SSD is the next stage, and I'm going to use my fancy LTT screwdriver. Again, not an ad, but it's actually a very nice screwdriver. I don't really buy like merch and stuff. It's actually a very nice screwdriver. Now, what I'm going to do is unscrew the top slot. I think this really, at this point in time, should be toolless. So ASUS, if you are watching on the off chance, I'd love if this was toolless next time. That would be a lot easier, especially when on like other cheap boards from other brands that cost less money than this board, it's the standard feature. Next, cooler. I'm going to see if there's any cooler prep that I need to do in today's build. And that is where our Endorfy rainbow-powered AIO comes into play. First ever experience installing an Endorfy cooler. Let's see how we get on. Good packaging is always a good start. And things get better because the fans are already pre-installed and they're all pre-wired. So that actually makes my life really easy. Although, I think they're actually not pre-installed in the way that I want them to be. Oh, I'll come back to that in a moment and what I mean by that. And then we've got the CPU water block, and it looks like it's got on there this sort of like universal mounting bracket plate system, which should make installing it, hopefully, a bit easier. So the installation is actually pretty simple. All I need to do is go into the included accessory bag and grab myself the screws that look like this. And what these are going to do is secure into the holes around the CPU. So take off the stock mounting hardware first, and then these are going to go on afterwards. A quick glance, and yet the case is already configured as expected for ATX motherboards, meaning all I need to do is just slide the board into place. Now, once it's into place, there's a few screws to actually get it secured down, and once it's secured in, I can move on to the cooler. I'll do the motherboard in a second. First, let me show you what I mean about the cooler. So the fans are already on, and they're in an exhaust configuration. That's good. The thing that's not so good, though, is that if you want to put the radiator tubes on the right, which is what I'd recommend, because it's going to look way better, fill the case out a bit more, you can't do that, because, well, you can, but it just looks crap, which means you've got to do this. I don't really want to do that, and I'm not sure that'll fit with the fan either. So I'm going to take all the fans off, flip the fans around to the other side. It's not the end of the world. I just think that we could do with agreeing a standard for how these pre-installed fans are actually pre-installed. So I'm going to screw the motherboard down, sort the fans out, secure the radiator, and then finish things off with a bit of thermal paste and the water block, which goes on top of the CPU. Once that is all sorted, the top panel can then slide back into place. And I could do the GPU at this stage, but I'm not going to. Instead, I'm going to do the power supply, all the cables, and the wiring. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we've got tutorials that go through some of this stuff in a bit more detail, including one for cables and wiring and all the detail you might need. And again, shamelessly promoting our own video. You can find that in the cards now. I'm just going to go ahead though and get this ASUS 750 watt gold unit installed, do all the power and all the front panel cables, and then rejoin you in a second for the exciting bit, the GPU. And with power and data all sorted, it's GPU time. I'm going to go ahead and pop our 9070 XT into the only slot you're going to use on this motherboard, the top slot. And to do that, I need to figure out which PCI lanes it is that are going to be removed. So there's 2 lanes on the graphics card, and then on the actual case itself, we've got the 2nd and 3rd slots in total. So after a little bit of jiggery pokery, and by that what I really mean is just taking out the 2nd and 3rd PCI lanes, I should be able to install the graphics card. So push that in, get it lined up, bit of pressure, and then a couple of screws, the same ones you've just removed, to fasten it into place. I probably will go ahead and also chuck maybe a GPU support bracket on here just to help eliminate some of this sag. I'm going to close this little back door cover to hide our screws and then power the graphics card up. As much as I know some of you guys will disagree with me here, so I'm putting myself in the proverbial firing line, I do think the new PCI Gen 5 power cable is better than when you've got like 3 or 4 8-pins like in this build. I think it's just tidier and there's actually less room to get it wrong. But with that, we have ourselves a complete build. What does it look like when it's powered up? Crucially though, how does it perform? Let's go ahead and take a look. Moving through to take a look at performance, and this super airflow optimized build performs really well across a broad range of resolutions from 1080 through to 1440p and 4K. Looking specifically at our 1440p and 4K numbers in the likes of Apex Legends, Cyberpunk and Hogwarts, and you can see that the frame rates generally are very good. Take a specific look at some of these 4K titles, and Hogwarts Legacy, for example, delivers more than 90 FPS at the 4K high preset. Marvel's Rivals, if you drop that res down to 1440p, delivers nearly 130 FPS on average, while even Cyberpunk, back at that top 4K resolution, is still going to yield over 80 frames per second on average. I'm really pleased with how this build turned out, and providing AMD can actually get the 9070 XT on shelves at an affordable price point, it makes for a really awesome system that you should actually look to build in 2025. What do you guys think of this build? Let me know in the comments down below. Get subscribed to see more from me. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.